Frandson here with David Weck at the Weck Method in San Diego, California. David is a longtime friend. He brought in his first original BOSU Ball into Scripps Clinic La Jolla when I was working with Dean Brittingham. And he's like, hey guys, I have this amazing invention, check it out. And Dean's like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. We can do this, this, and this with it. And Steve Cotter jumps on it, does 42 one-legged pistols. If you've heard Steve's interview yet, he'll share about that story. And so David is an amazing inventor. He's invented multiple products in the last couple of decades and more. And not only are they still here, they're just thriving. And he has a whole new version of the BOSU Ball. And he has his RMT clubs, which are just unbelievable training as well. And so we are so happy to have you on. It's so fun for us to go back to our roots. It was when I started training with Dean Brittingham, and you were coming in all the time as well. And so tell us your story. How did you invent the BOSU Ball?
Okay, well, it really begins with a lifelong quest to study athletic movement because of my own deficiencies as an athlete. I couldn't be a pro athlete, for example. I was a Division III college football player, so I was always a student of movement. So that's how it starts. And then I was in New York City, and I had discovered rollerblading. And rollerblading was just bliss because you can literally fly around the city so fast and the entire thing's paved. So I literally existed in rollerblades for 5 years without walking. So I was in skates if I was outside. And the result of that is my feet became extremely weak. And when your feet aren't strong, you can't transfer the force to and from the ground efficiently, and up the kinetic chain, there has to be compensation. And so because of that factor, I injured my lower back. And because my feet were so weak and I didn't understand that that was the fundamental issue, I spent a year in chronic pain. Every day my back hurt, and it was a miserable experience. And that's when I had gone through physical therapy, nothing was helping, blah, blah, blah. I discovered the exercise ball, and eventually I started standing on top of that ball as I was progressing the challenges. And that's when I started to have that aha that, oh, my feet are getting strong, my back is feeling better. And there was a direct connection to that equation.
Awesome.
And the problem was the risk to standing on that ball was so great that you risk breaking your neck in the process of rehabilitating. So after a number of falls off the ball, and sort of contemplating my dilemma, which how do I continue this form of training to fortify my feet, which is making my entire body better, I thought, what if I cut it in half? And it was just this aha moment, and split second later, I'm thinking, wow, this is a huge opportunity. Wow, I can picture millions of them all over the world. And so literally my life took an abrupt turn, so that the next day I went to the hardware store, I built a prototype, it worked the following day, and I was a personal trainer at the time, so I basically trained every client I had, all the way from a 9-year-old to a 86-year-old, and found efficacy with everyone. So it was just a logical path from there that this was going to be my next project. And so I knew that the best way to do it, especially on a low budget, is validate at the top. So my first sale was to the US ski team, because logically it fit into their program extremely well. And then it was the New York Yankees, the LA Lakers, the New Jersey Devils, and the Los Angeles Rams. And they were all the championship teams of the respective leagues and sports. And that led to just doors opening up. And I met Dean Brittingham because I had sold it to the New York Knicks, where his son was a coach.
Right.
And he said, you have to meet my father Dean with this product. So that was how I met Dean, it's how I met you, it's how I met Steve Cotter. And so that was basically the initial launch, the impetus for it, and then the very beginning with handmade prototypes. And then it was all the other aspects of intellectual property, manufacture, distribution, all the marketing, all those factors that you have to really make everything come together to make it succeed.
So go back to duct tape, and the foundation. So, we had a dozen of his prototypes in our facility for so long, and some of the arrows stay in some of them would come out a little bit, and then you just started finding the right distribution manufacturers to make it, and all of a sudden it just all came together. And I was one of your early distributors, I don't know if you recall, but I actually sold quite a few of them at one point, and realized I was more of a service business than product sales at that time. But I was such a fan of them, we were selling them like crazy. We'd buy a couple dozen, they'd sell instantly. And so tell us about how the duct tape and how you actually made the first ones, because I remember those ones vividly.
Yeah, so basically I took a stability ball and I cut it in half I left sort of 1.5 inch lip from, so it was 53% of it, and I had a round piece of wood that I discovered I had to put several layers of shellac on it because wood is porous and it will leak air unless you coat it. And then I would wrap the ball, and then I would staple with 200 staples very close to one another so that no one staple put sort of a tearing force on it. And then I would seal that stapled section with glue so that it was sealed and airtight. And the portion of the ball that I had cut had the valve on top of it, and so that's how you inflated it. And then I would protect the edge with a piece of foam and then duct tape it all together. So that was the early prototypes, and I built hundreds of them. Had a little wood shop where I was doing them. I hired one of my brother's friends, my younger brother's friends, to help construct them. And so that was, and I knew that was a very short-term solution because you can't scale that, but it was necessary to get the concept off the ground. So it was proof of concept and marketing, because now, I mean, the New York Yankees had 2 units that were duct tape. The Los Angeles Lakers had 3 units that were duct tape, right? But it secured a testimonial, and they were using the product. So that was what led to the story behind the marketing of it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That's the first time I've heard the whole story. So we're getting some live footage here, going beyond with David Weck and his BOSU Ball invention. Now, one of the things that I was always impressed with David about is that he was such a student of the body, and not only would he invent something, but once you invented it, you actually mastered it. And so David was a master at balance, and so he could stand on this ball any way, any shape or form, with amounts of weight, and upside down, sideways, I mean every plane that you could possibly go in. And so David would train for hours a day on his products just to really be an ambassador of it. So tell us a little more about how you went into really mastering your product so you could help sell it and share the story behind it.
Okay, so basically it starts with the unique properties of this device, the BOSU balance strainer. And really what makes it truly unique is that it provides a stable, unstable surface that's constantly trying to direct you off of center, but the device itself is stable when the platform side is down. And the platform side down with the dome up is what makes it special. You can use it the other way, but the other way, because it's unstable entirely, your nervous system can't completely give over to it. When the dome is up, you can ballistically hit it with full power, and the nervous system is not putting on some protective governor that's bringing tension up in the body. So what you learn to do is you learn to drop all tension and completely load and explode so that it forms the perfect adjunct to the weightlifting and the plyometrics and all that stuff, because what it's doing is it's down regulating the protective reflexes and giving you faster transmission of force, and it fortifies the lower extremities. The feet become extremely strong. The shanks, the calves, and the shins, they just become so strong, and everything becomes coordinated. We have a reflexive grabbing with the fingers and the toes. We come from tree climbers where this is functional. But walking on flat ground, running, jumping on flat ground, flexing the toes is the kiss of death. It creates slack in the system, and now the little intrinsic muscles are forced to work to secure balance, and they get injured. It's plantar fasciitis, it's shin splints, it's all sorts of issues. Whereas the BOSU Ball strengthens the flexors, but it teaches you to extend through the toes. And so what I would do is I would apply sort of maximum force to it and minimum force to it. So I brought the Feldenkrais training theory to this, and it lent itself perfectly, because you can get on here and take huge risk because there is no risk. I'm not going to fall from training, so I can stand there and close my eyes, tilt my head, do it on one leg, and really get the subtlety and the nuance of what it is to be balanced, which is basically being able to feel and sense restriction or tension and release that tension and solve the problem lower in the body as opposed to bringing it up. If the instant I'm up as an athlete, I'm slow. I can't react, I can't move, I can't load explode to the ground. So that's really the unique aspect of it. I guess the athlete in me, both consciously and subconsciously, recognized this tremendous value to this training in terms of my ability to functionally move outside of the training, because I don't train for the sake of training. Everything that I do is a very limited amount of time and energy that you have in your life. I want carryover. I don't care about lifting a weight. I don't care about the modality. If it gives me the carryover I want, then I'm investing in it. But if I don't get the carryover, then I could care less about the activity. Because I care about life, I care about running around, I care about, if I play pickup basketball, if I want to race with my kids, I want to be right now ready, and I want to be the best that I can be as I get older. So that was really what attracted me to the training. And then eyes closed was a big, big education, because when you take away that visual perception, the body is constantly scanning for horizontal and vertical lines to create the grid for you. And if you close your eyes, you don't have that grid. And now it's all vestibular and proprioception, right. And this is taking proprioception and really challenging it so that now you become extremely tuned with your balance. So that's basically, that answered the question?
Definitely. I mean, I would go to your house, I remember, and you would be out there for hours training.
Yeah, it was a big investment in time, because I wanted to get out ahead of it so that I could articulate the full potential of it. And the way that I do it, I have to speak from experience. I can't sort of think my way through it. I have to experience it, and that way I can share the nuance, and I can share the truth. So that's why, and it was enjoyable. You're in the moment when you're training balance. Definitely. Like, you cannot be outside of that moment. You're very mindful of the moment, which in athletics, you can't be anything more valuable than that.
That's for sure. And for me, the value with the BOSU Ball is still today one of my favorite tools, in the whole entire gym, and it's my go-to one every day before I go hard on the basketball court or go surf or what have you. I mean, and all my clients, everyone steps on that, and we go through the same protocol, and it's just, there's footwork coordination moves. You can flip it upside down. There's balance, both legs, one leg, full squats. You can just do some bounding from side to side. There's unbelievable and unlimited amount of actually exercises and coordination drills and balance drills and strength drills that you can do on the BOSU, proprioception drills as well. And so definitely by far one of my favorite products all time, and it's not going anywhere. It's going to be here for generations to come. And so again, that's why when you're talking to an inventor and you hear his mind and how he thinks out of the box and creates and then actually works the workmanship behind making it, it's remarkable. So I love hearing that. Now that we're on the BOSU Ball and the whole system behind it, tell us about the new version. He has a whole entire new BOSU Ball. How do you come up with something that looks so similar, but yet it's so different and so much more profound in so many ways?
Okay, so what we have here is the new version. Most people are familiar with the blue half ball that you see, quote unquote, everywhere. This one is distinctly different. It's the exact same shape and dimension, but it's distinctly different with its density and its design. And so those two factors give it a very unique and distinct experience and training stimulus for a very honed training response that I want, which is loading the ground and really capturing the power of the haunch and hip flexors. So the glutes, the upper hamstrings, the hip flexors, all those which power translated to and through the body, to and from the ground, through the balls of the feet. Because that's where an athlete has to exist. And conventional wisdom is that if I want the glutes, I've got to drive through the heels. Now that doesn't carry over as well to the athletics because I need to be through the balls of the feet athletically. And I can't have slack, so it's not a calf raise where there's slack. If muscles are like this, you pull one end of the system, the muscle will elongate, then the system will go. But if I learn to make myself long and strong, I pull this and boom, I go, because it's a fascial connection, it's connective tissue. So with this unit here, sorry for that loud bang, with this unit here we have what's called the power zone and a power line. And what this does is it creates this precise area of placement for the feet that takes this very firm dome. It's incredibly firm compared to the original one. So what we say is this one's more about resistance, the other one's more about instability. So the other one is very proprioceptively fine-tuned, all the intrinsics are getting a lot of work. This is creating this resistance with a very specific shape based on the design and the positioning, so I can be very precise in where I locate my feet or my hands for different exercises. And that shape of resistance forces me to move forward within the foot, to put the proper toe tension in, so you're weaning and down-regulating the grabbing reflex, and you literally cannot load through the heels because the resistance and the shape forces you to leverage the power of the heel forward. And it takes all the slack out of the system. And it basically teaches you the fundamentals of ground loading, where you learn to initiate contact with the 4th and 5th metatarsals, which are intimately linked to the heel, the calcaneus. So if we look at this diagram right here, those green circles are where we find our balance. So basically this was created to enhance the squatting pattern, both the way that we squat and the conventional squat, and to enhance your coordination and strength for ground loading.
Love it.
So that's the rationale behind it.
So, I mean, how many people watching have actually done a squat on their toes? I mean, and if you do, you're probably doing it all wrong from what everyone tells you. And now David, here he is, an inventor, just a student of the body, is saying, hey, we're going to teach you how to squat on your toes on our new ball.
Oh, actually, it's just...
not the toes, but the ball.
Just behind the toes and the lateral aspect where it's the true ground floor, so metatarsals, and not be quad dominant.
There you go.
Not be dominant through the knees, but to capture the power of the posterior and what we affectionately call the haunch. We want to launch from the haunch, balance through the balls of the feet.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and it works because I've been doing it, and you end up getting so much more strength and coordination and balance and power from where you need to get it. And so it's just awesome. And then all the other components, flipping it over.
Yeah, you can basically do any exercise that you can do with the original, you can do with the elite. It's just, again, one provides more resistance and is firmer, and one provides a lot more instability. And so there's a lot more subtlety and nuance of all of that articulation through the joints in the feet, for example. Yeah, we also have a version of a push-up that we call the compression push-up on the elite, that where your intent is to crush to the center, try to pop it, which you'll never do. And that gives you this center line strength, and it's incredible for enhancing your ability to sprint and run, and incredible for someone who wants to learn how to bench press more, so we can prime the bench press. And the primer squat here will add load to your bar for squats, overhead squats, the snatch. Basically anything that relies on that squat pattern is instantly improved with the priming.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if you're going to step on it for 3 minutes, what would you do on your BOSU ball?
Okay, what I like to do is I like to get on it, close the eyes, go through what we call the Zen 10, where I just get in tune, I'm down regulating the protective reflex, I'm relaxing, I'm feeling everything and really going inside so that when I come to the ground, I have a better sense of connection to the ground. I have a better internal sense of where tension is, where relaxation is. So as an athlete, I can really regulate that and boom, boom, drop and pop with extreme speed. Next thing I'll do is the primer squat. So I'll really set that pattern where I'm balancing the extensors and the flexors, and I'm deepening the position, and I'm learning to do that all through the balls of the feet. Right? And I'm engaging the adductors in a way that helps them flex and extend the hips as well. So that'll be the next thing. The next thing that I will do is I will jump rope on top of it. So I'm getting the ballistics, and the rope gives me the timing, and I'll even get to double unders. I'll do it with my eyes closed because I've had a lot of practice on it. And that gives me this incredible sense of connection of my center of gravity through my base of support, so I can precisely put both of those exactly where and when I want them to maintain that relationship. And then the last thing that I'll do on it, well, not the last thing, but the next thing is the core exercises, just 3 basic core exercises that really involve bracing and then training the flank. So I'll do those. And then the last thing I'll do is that compression push-up. And then it's on to whatever I'm doing. So that is the precise sequence that I use when training with the BOSU Elite.
Awesome. All right, now you know what to do.
Right.
So tell us about some of your other inventions that I've had a chance to train with. The newest one is the RMT club.
Yes.
And so tell us how you came about this whole product, and what are the benefits from it, what's inside of it, and how do you work with this thing?
Okay, so basically club swinging is as old as humanity. So the very first tool / weapon is either a stick or a stone, and you sort of combine the two, you get a club, okay? And this ability to articulate the spiraling motion at the distal extremity is something that's unique to us as humans. We can grasp a stick and we can create long leverage and then incredible speed with it. A great ape can't do that same action. So they're more restricted to this position here. They can't put it here and get that articulation of pronation to supination, which allows us to win in the fight. Okay, that's how the smaller, more intelligent creature can put the bigger, stronger creature in a cage. All right, and then if you light it on fire, an elephant will stand down. So club is primal.
Right.
It's the most primal form of exercise that we have. And I've been swinging clubs for more than 20 years, all shapes, sizes, weights, etc. And this one didn't exist. So this one, what makes it special is a combination of features. So it has this soft club head, so it's malleable. And that gives me the ability to not have fear of striking. And as a matter of fact, our MMA fighters will actually bone up the body using it. Inside this club head is a steel shot that shifts. So when we decelerate the club, if it's a mass all solid, I can't put on the brakes as fast. But because I have the shift, I can slam on the brakes and then experience this pulse of power. And athletics is speed, power is speed, so we get that. It also gives us this ability to be very fluid with it and get that tactile feedback and that audible feedback for how fluid you're going. For example, if I go slow, it'll make sound. If I go fast, it'll be centrifugal and out. So I've got that, and it allows me to learn more complex patterns faster. I can teach it to someone where it would take X amount of time, it's X minus some factor when I teach them with this versus a conventional club. And because of all these properties, now I can strike the club. So if you have a padded surface, like our MMA mats or a heavy bag, you can strike with this thing full force and do all of these sort of complex recoveries that gives you many more reps per unit of time than a sledgehammer or a mace. It's much safer, and I can really focus on that coordination of that spiraling movement. So if you're looking at training, it's the best club on the planet for training to get this non-dominant side. When you're training with a club, and we use one club primarily, we have this or this. One feels very natural, the other one feels very awkward at first. So we're constantly going back and forth, and you see you have this relationship to the center line that is asymmetrical. So the non-dominant side now has to be the driver, and the dominant side now has to play the role of the non-dominant side, and that very Dean Brittenham-esque, right? This ambidexterity principle.
Definitely.
So the more you train that, the more holistic you become in terms of the connection of the brain to the body, the more sort of surprise successes you have athletically. Like, how did I ever do that? Well, it's because this new baseline of continuity and balance throughout the body, right and left. So it gets very metabolic if we want. We can teach people low cognitive skills where it's like takes you an instant to teach it. They can do it right away, and we can get as complex and integrated, as subtle as you want. They could take years to master. So we say every client, every session, and it doesn't matter if you're a pro athlete, doesn't matter if you're a housewife, this thing is an incredible training tool.
Definitely. Now, what's inside it? Because you hear the sound of it, and the counterbalance of weight and acceleration, deceleration, the eccentric strength that you build. What is inside of it to create that?
So it is literally a steel shot that looks like little BBs, and that gives us the weight and that shifting dynamic that, like I said, you get that very fast and powerful pulse from eccentric to concentric. And the audible feedback, the tactile feedback of, okay, yes, it's chambered and that's where it is, okay? That you get that sense of timing, balance, rhythm, and then getting similar on both sides, for example. So the steel shot is an integral part of it inside the club.
Fantastic. And what are the weights that you offer? What are the weight ranges of the club?
Yeah, so we have a 2 pound, 4 pound, 6 pound, and 8 pound. Every 2 pounds makes a huge difference because we're talking about leveraged weight. We designed the handle to be as light as it possibly can be to really magnify that leverage effect. And every 2 pounds is a huge difference. The 2 pounder we'll use some in therapy or some sports specific stuff for pitchers and things where they're gonna go very fast against light resistance. The 4 pounder is our workhorse. Anybody can train with the 4 pounder. That's the one that we recommend. If you're gonna buy one, it's the 4 pounder. 6 pounds is for when you're getting a little bit more continuity in your patterns. Your patterns are very strong, and so you're applying greater resistance, so you can sort of move the 6 at the speed you could move the 4 because you're getting coordinated. And then 8 pounds is, that's a lot of strength. You can't move it nearly as fast as you can with the 4, but a lot of strength keeps you very honest in terms of, like, if it's here, it's doable and light, but if it's here, now you really feel the weight of it. And 8 pounds, because it's really about speed and fluidity is how we train with this. 8 pounds it's as much weight as we could fit into it while maintaining the dynamic property. If we were to put 10 or 12 in it, it would no longer be shifting like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How much martial arts background do you have with the figure 8 movement systems and all the flow that you do with the club training?
Quite a bit. So I studied several martial arts, and then what I'll call the root of martial arts. I did a lot of training and do a lot of training with a rope, where I don't jump through the rope, but I learn all of the other patterns that you can do with the rope. And this idea of, I've had amazing teachers through the years as well, and most people are restricted to what's called an A-frame, where they have this positioning. And what you want to do is you want to develop the center line ability to create the V-frame, because now I can cut to the center. And anytime I'm about to be flanked, I can now cut inside to the center and reestablish control of the center. And so it's how, like, I will play around with an expert, like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and their feedback will be, wow, you're the most functionally strong guy I've ever rolled around with who doesn't train jiu-jitsu. So they will ultimately win in jiu-jitsu if I'm doing it with them, but it will be several minutes of, real delicate chess, where it's like the fine-tuned, like, oh, you thought you had me. No, you don't. Like that type of a thing. And it all stems from that integration of these spiraling movements, the subtlety of supination and pronation. For example, if you're gonna throw a punch in boxing, it's very much a pronate. You have to pronate and snap it because it's all about speed. Uppercuts are supination. That's the way that you get the power, right? And a hook can either be souped or prone. So it's and I have this thing called a core fist, which is an arrangement of the hands that creates a stronger structure for a fist. So when I take what's called the distal interphalangeal joint here, what happens is if I crunch that in and I'm not holding onto an object, I will ultimately fail structurally if I keep closing it, and the wrist isn't stable. But if I take that last digit and I straighten it and triangulate everything to the center, now that becomes incredibly strong from a bone skeletal standpoint, and the wrist is fortified incredibly. So that's, let me see your hand real quick. So I'm going to just put it in real quick. That's the center, that's there. Spread the thumb as far as you can. We take this into there, wrap the thumb, and then wrap the pinky. And just feel what you have in your hand there.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like holding a wrap of quarters.
Yeah, exactly. It's that roll of dimes that you don't need the roll of dimes. It's because you now have like something that's extremely substantial.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. That's new.
Yeah, that's new, and that's what I'm most excited about right now is what we call Weck method running. So this is launching January 7th, 2017, and without bragging or boasting, I believe I'm the world's foremost expert in the subject of locomotion and running. I've had enough time and exposure and study and then application. There is a hidden secret to running fastest and most efficiently. And currently, conventional wisdom teaches against this secret. But if you analyze the videotapes in slow motion of every single great runner, they all obey this rule. And the experts, guys like Michael Johnson, famous coaches, all coach against the cue. But you actually want to do this. And once you understand that there is an objective that you must do if you're going to run the best, and it all revolves around balance, if I must do that, now I can take every arrow in the quiver, training-wise, and point it at the target. Whereas if I'm coaching against this cue and doing other cues that many of them are nonsense, now even if I hit, I've missed the target. So these running philosophies of fall forward, or pull with the hamstrings, or shorten your stride, or keep your shoulders level. I mean, it's a bunch of blind leading the blind. Those are all terrible cues for running. So we're about to change the game for running, and I'm still keeping it secret right now, but I tremble with excitement. When I invented the BOSU Ball, I had a gut feeling that this is going to be global, here forever, This running, Weck method running, is the same tremble.
So where will they be able to learn about the Weck method running? I know the method, and so you shared it with me, and it's awesome. And so want everyone to be able to have access to that.
Yeah, so basically weckmethod.com is where you'll go to find out. It's not on the site as of today, because we're sort of building that, and it's all top secret. But the running clinic, the very first running clinic here in San Diego at our Weck Method Performance Training Center, is January 7th, 2017. And we've already got signups from people in India, all over the United States. So it's going to be a great group of people. And I don't care if you're an elite level runner, or even if you don't run. If you're a personal trainer who works with clients, the foundation for functional movement is gait. It's locomotion. It's the most functional activity that we do, aside from things like breathing and eating. Those things are more functional. But walking, running, locomotion, you do it every single day of your life.
Yeah.
It's movement, and it's the foundation. And once you unlock the secret, now you get better carryover to everything. Throwing, punching, hitting. You want to increase the power through your tennis? Learn Weck method running. You want to be a better personal trainer for your clients? Reduce back pain, just have better function overall? Learn Weck method running. So January 7th is the launch date, and like I said, I couldn't be more excited.
Well, it is exciting because he's bringing something that everyone's missing. You have all these experts analyzing gait and running and being speed coaches, and we've all missed it, and myself included, and I consider myself a speed coach as well.
I remember when we had that conversation, and it was, you know, once you sort of, the scrutiny on it is, at first you're skeptical, like, wait a minute. And then it's curious, like, wait a minute, this is starting to make sense. And then it's conversion. It's like, oh my gosh. Like, I've had that response from several people who, you know, who are in the inner circle, like I've shared with you. I've been teaching it wrong. And now we have instant success. You come to the running clinic, you're a better runner that very same day, and you're on the path to constant improvement and honing it to have better balance and strength for locomotion. Very simple.
And speed.
Speed, that's what I care about. I want to see a 9.58 drop. I want to see a faster time.
Yeah.
Always push
40s, 60s, 100s, all that.
Doesn't matter
we
the
love
distance. Doesn't matter the distance.
So David and I and Dean and just everyone who's been a student in life about kinesiology, physiology, the body, how it moves, and how to train it, and awareness of everything from posture on down. We all just study video and look at pictures and compare them to guys that got injured versus guys that haven't. And so David's one that has an archives full of videos and pictures that he studied over the years.
Well, I learned the skill in college, and my coach in college was absolutely incredible. He was my head coach and my positional coach, and basically he was a defensive genius, and I played defensive back. And the way that I was able to compete above my athletic ability was here. Film analysis. The eye in the sky does not lie. So when you analyze the film, and you can break things down into slow motion, you can rewind it, you can go forward, you can see everything. Now when you get on the field, you already know what's going to happen because you've seen the clues, you've seen the little keys and reads that tell the tale of what play's coming next. And when it comes to athletic movement, it is literally impossible to be your best and optimize performance without video analysis. The video analysis in slow motion does not lie. The eye in the sky does not lie. And the naked eye will lie to you. There's a famous case of this back when before we had that stop motion photography, the big debate was, does a racehorse get airborne with all four legs off the ground or not? And you had half the people betting that, oh, I'm certain one of the legs is on the ground the whole time, or you know, at any given point the thing is not in flight. And then you had the other side that said, no, I think it's in flight. And it was the stop motion photography that showed the horse in flight that made there's no more argument. Opinions don't matter all of a sudden. We have the proof. And you have a case where Tom Tellez, you know, the legendary sprinting coach, he was Carl Lewis's sprinting coach. He's on record as saying, sprinters' heels hit the ground. You cannot sprint without hitting the heel on the ground. Well, guess what? The video reveals otherwise. Usain Bolt runs 100 and the heels don't hit. So having this tool, this technology is absolutely essential, and I don't even trust my naked eye. If I see it, I tell the athlete, well, here's what I think, but I won't know until we break down the footage that I just captured. And that's when we're going to really know what the next instruction is. So it's really, it's an essential tool that if you're a student of the game, you have to use it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, let's backtrack just for a few. We're wanting to cover a lot of his inventions. And so one of the ones that you may not have seen is called the BOSU Ball. It's a reactionary trainer. It's basically two balls with a bungee cord in the middle attaching the two balls together. And you could do an array of hand-eye coordination drills. And so he shelved it for now. It might come back out. But one of my favorite training tools, another genius invention by David Weck. And so it just shows when you start to think and really learn about the body, understand all these different tools and techniques, it's for me as an observer watching, it's just amazing to be able to see brilliant minds create inventions and have them as staple products and something that, you know, everybody uses. I mean, he's helping more people than you could possibly help on a day-to-day basis just by creating that product. So lots of credit to you.
Thank you. The BOSU Ball was a very Dean Brittingham inspired device because of its ambidextrous nature, and you could work at incredible speeds with it. And get a lot of proprioception between right and left because you're controlling the flight of the ball. And we once put a speed gun on it, and I got it to register higher than 110 miles an hour.
Did you really?
Snapped it out, snapped it back, and catching it faster than 110 because it registered triple X on the, you know, the gun stopped at 110 because nobody's pitching faster than 110. So that, I mean, that to give you an idea of the speeds that you could get with this thing.
Right.
Now, it's very skill dependent.
Right.
You know, and I always say that if Duncan had invented the yo-yo, you know, in the next millennium after 2000, he would have failed launching the yo-yo because kids play with their thumbs now, they don't play with their bodies. And it's very skill dependent. So, the yo-yo is a product that sold 100 million or more. I don't know how many units through the life of the product. And it's a staple, it's here forever kind of a thing, but it sells a heck of a lot less units now than it did back in the heyday when you didn't have video games to compete with it. And the BOSU Ball sort of, you know, didn't have that advantage. It was launched in the video game era when kids don't play the same way. And so, since its return is more subtle, it's not something that someone's going to invest the time in to really get proficient with it. So it's a product that we may relaunch at some point after, you know, when this running hits, then there'll be a lot of eyeballs on things that say, oh, what else do you have, right? You know, ooh, what else do you have? So it'll be sort of a magnet and a pull for everything that we do.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We are running out of time. You are going to be able to chat with David Weck live right after this, so don't go anywhere. And make sure you jump on and get his new Weck Method BOSU Ball, his club, and check out his running course. It is just phenomenal. We're so excited to have a brilliant mind in our decade, really keeping on, taking everyone, going beyond in their day-to-day lives, as David's done with his, and helping more people than we could ever imagine with the products that he's created. So, pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Justin. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And if you need anything at all, you have any questions, you contact Mary at weckmethod.com. That's Mary, M-A-R-Y, at weckmethod.com, and she'll be able to help you out.
There you go, weckmethod.com, here at the Weck Method Performance Training Center in San Diego, California. Signing off, you're going to chat with him live right now. Thank you.